So, hey guys, Chauzu here. So yeah, 2 weeks ago I asked you to ask me question. I was going to do an AMA, ask me anything, and honestly, there's been so much new stuff in One Piece Treasure Cruise going on, and I honestly forgot a bit about this, but I was like, okay, now we're getting the version update soon. I need to do this before then. So here, I'm going to go through all your questions. I did a little sneak peek, so I had some idea at least what I was going to answer the questions. But first, we have a question from Gary Oak. How much longer do you honestly think OPTC will last the way it's going? And yeah, I know this is a common sentiment that One Piece Treasure Cruise is going downhill, and I can agree in some circumstances, like 2 weeks ago when this post was made, I was more in agreement. I disagree a bit more now since I do have a feeling that Grand Voyage in particular is going to be what me and many others wanted, which is regular, difficult content in similar style to Arena. So I feel like with Arena and Grand Voyage, I'm going to get what I want. But honestly, if we look at it objectively, One Piece Treasure Cruise is doing better than ever. Since the sync, Global has never made as much money. As far as I know, JP is steady. There's been no dramatic shifts, and it's going to be coming up. And it will probably make a lot of money like usual. So as long as the anime is ongoing, I don't see any reason for One Piece Treasure Cruise to keep going. And who knows after, like, we have stuff like Dokkan that is going on despite Dragon Ball not being that ongoing anymore, like before, for example. So yeah, I have decent hope for the future, at least in the coming, like, should we say 3 years? I don't see any big worries then. But of course, things can change quickly. Here's a question from Sebas DGC14. He says, you always seem to have some hope, rather a great attitude toward change that Bandai implements despite the negativity in the subreddit, even though you interact closely with it. What makes you believe Bandai's got what it takes to keep OPTC alive? Do you see the implementation of Grand Voyage as the final chance Bandai's got to make things right and keep the community happy? I'll be honest, I think there's parts of the community that will never be happy, and honestly, I think it's pretty clear that they are burnt out from the game, and they feel like they are so invested that they can't quit. So instead, everything is horrible and the game is going to die. And many of them hope the game will die because then they have a real excuse to quit the game. So I feel like many of these people should just quit already, honestly. But other than that, like, I also feel pretty down on the game. Like I've been saying, at least on the Discord and such, that I can see myself, if you go into the September, and like we only have Arena every 2 months, we don't get a new forest, Garp Challenge is dead. I can see myself like really losing interest in the game if I don't get more fun content to team build against. But then of course we got the preview now of Grand Voyage a bit, and Bandai really focuses on the difficulty here, and they say every 2 months we get new Grand Voyage missions, and the initial set is 5 missions. So if we get every 2 months 5 hard Grand Voyage missions that are basically Arena-esque in difficulty, if not harder, as well as a new Arena, that's basically 6 new cool content every 2 months, as compared to 1 right now. And yeah, like, I can kind of live with the current status quo even if I'm unhappy. So of course, if we increase that to 6, I will be pretty set personally. So yeah, I do feel pretty positive now about the future, even if I want Bandai to add forests from time to time, because it's a different type of experience. We get legends that really shine in forest, but not in other content. So I hope that answers the question anyway. Mr. Christian27 asks, my favorite abilities in the game come from unique mechanics related to the character's devil fruit, like Bonclay, Sugar, Boa, and Perona. What are some devil fruit abilities or new mechanics you'd like to see from the game based on characters in universe abilities? Honestly, I don't think too much about this, but I do agree that it's cool when they're able to do this in a cool way. One idea I've had for some time, which people will probably think is pretty stupid, but it's related to Apu. I would really much like if an Apu legend was like tap focused and taps will like symbolize the sounds Apu makes. And I can see it like that if you tap in a certain way, like maybe you can get more taps than the 6 you can now on a full team. So maybe if you tap in a certain way, like maybe it's like a tap challenge, like imagine a tap mini game. Maybe they allow you to do a 7th tap. That would be completely nuts. But I feel like if they do it the right way, like add the sound effects correctly, like focus on that aspect of Apu, you could get a legend that when he's captain, he allows you to do 7 hits instead of just 6, which will be obviously completely stupid, but I think that would be cool. So that's my idea. Yay0231 Lion asks me, and this is a common question I get, are you planning to do overall ranking, basically a tier list of legends? Definitely would like to hear your view of that. And honestly, I'm so happy that people ask this of me, that they want to hear what I think. And basically the reason I don't do tier lists is because I'm of the opinion that tier lists have no value in this game. It's about beating the content, and it's content dependent. I want to really stress that. I don't want to like have legends about others. Of course, there are legends that are more universally viable, but I feel like there's so many things to keep in mind that the tier list like lose any value. And like if you compare tier lists that other people do, and I respect your right to do tier lists, I'm just not interested. Like you can see that legends are a bit all over the place. It ends up being super subjective. That said, I'm not ruling out tier lists completely, but if I do something like that, it won't be in the traditional sense. I do like talking a lot about how good legends are, how they can be utilized well. I just don't like the idea of taking every legend and ranking them between each other. No, that will probably never happen. Even if it probably will be good for the channel in terms of views and that, but in the end, this is a hobby, and I want to do things I enjoy, and yeah, I just don't enjoy that. Moving on, Lukash asks, I often hear you say this team is a fun team, this team is a speedrun team, this team is an optimal team. Can you give us criteria under which you categorize your teams? This is actually a very good question, and one I ask myself pretty often. If you think about my thumbnails, I basically have 3 main categorizations for teams. I have the showcase, I have the speedrun, and good team. Speedrun is basically go as fast as possible. Sometimes speedruns can use like whale units or inaccessible units, but you know that this team really goes fast. That's the message I want to convey. As for showcase teams, my purpose there is just to showcase something, make them look as good as possible, and I don't really care about if the team is the easiest to build or most accessible. I just want it to be cool teams, basically. And the good teams moniker I basically use when I try to make teams other people can copy. Sometimes speedruns can be that too, like there is a bit of blur with that. But yeah, that's basically how I think about it. But yeah, I hope that answers the question. David Forestieri asks, are you enjoying Alliance events? As far as I'm concerned, Alliance Casino is a good event. I dislike Super PvP though. I'm not a fan of alliances in general. Like it exists now, so we have to deal with it. So I made a pretty chill alliance. Like all I ask of my own alliance is that they are active every event. Other than that, there's no big pressure. Sometimes I don't play much. Sometimes I go hard. Sometimes other goes hard. And like for Super Boss Kizuna, we usually all step up a bit. But like people obviously like Alliance Kizuna, so it's probably the way to go. And I'm sure they can make Alliance events others will enjoy too. Super PvP was obviously a big flop. At least from an enjoyability perspective, I think Panda did make a lot of money from it, but if it doesn't improve, they might not do it next time. But I know there's more questions about that later. Moving on, another question from J0231 Lion. He asks, what kind of character do you think is overall better? Supertype, superclass, dual, versus? What potentially new features will be possible for future characters in your mind? Like, as if you're thinking about as captain, then objectively speaking, supertype and superclass are superior. It's a lot of extra damage you get from using them. And we're not going to even talk about combining, like having a superclass and supertype or two different superclasses. Like, that's a ton of extra damage for free. But as subs, like duals are still the kings of subs, I feel, in general. But versus shouldn't be underestimated. It's just that we get so few versus units, but stuff like versus Ace and versus Aqua, for example, are very good as subs, like getting free burn conditional whenever you want. I use Arcane often for matching orbs as well as a sub. Like, yeah, versus are also very strong as subs, even if they don't really stand out as captains. Like, versus aren't inherently good captains like Supertype and Superclass, for example. Omar Kamis asks, seeing how Steer's Pirate Alliance for Kizuna now PvP, are we creeping closer to a Pirate Alliance treasure map? I personally will find that a little more exciting and engaging because treasure map is my least favorite game mode to play. I usually joke and say that every treasure map is super, so we don't need super treasure map. Jokes aside, like, everything seems to become super in this game, so we probably get super treasure map eventually. I wouldn't mind because Alliance events are usually just extra free rewards. Like, others might go harder, but I always go pretty hard in treasure map anyways. Doesn't really matter much. So yeah, I think it will happen sometime, sure. Who knows when? Andrea Freshki asks, is it worth to keep dupos on Rare Recruit for the new Grand Voyage power-up system or just keep the Legend? It's pretty late now, of course. Should have done this video a bit earlier. But yeah, since there's just a few days left now, just keep the Legends and Rare Recruits and feed them after the update, I'd say, to be on the safe side. But you should be able to use them now and keep the merges. Question finally from Marco Boschnak. I hope that's pronounced right. Hey Chauzu, Marco here. Is it time for a new super hard forest or a new ship? Do you love tower defense games? It would be awesome if get some One Piece TD. Cheers. Okay, so the two different questions basically, or three. First, new forest, as already said. I really want a new forest. Some legends like bulkier ones, they really benefit from the longer content. They don't really shine in short content. And forest is basically the only long content we have, so. New ship, sure. I'm a bit, I don't know what Panda is doing with ships. Like, they can just buff current ships. They can make new seasonal ships, whatever. It's like a free for the games to sell them, so I don't know why they don't take advantage of that. So, yeah, I do want more ships. We're badly lacking ships for some colors and classes and such. Like, Quick in particular, I feel, are really in bad need of ships. Do you love tower defense games? Sorry, not really. But yeah, I thought we were going to have another super PvP question, so let's talk a bit about that before I end the video. Basically, super PvP, big waste of time, really. What I'm mostly annoyed about with super PvP is that you can't see anything in-game, and this actually has some consequences because, let's say me, for example, last PvP, I had all the boosters, but I still got 27 points per win, and like, I should be getting more points than people without boosters, so I didn't really get rewarded anything in the in-game rankings. I only got a small reward on the very shitty website rankings. So, really, if they don't do any changes, I don't see any reason to view Super PvP as anything special, really. So, they better buff it, because I'm sure they made them a lot of money this time, but then when people realized how little you got in return, I don't think they will be able to repeat it unless they announce some big buffs for it. But yeah, that's your questions answered. Sorry it's a bit late, but now it's done at least. So yeah, let's await the upcoming update together. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.